Did you see what Ted Cruz and Mark Cuban had going on today?
No, I did not.
Okay, so let me read it to you and see what you think about it. So a guy named Mark Davis sends a tweet at Cuban. I'm so ready to be on this year's Maverick home straight. So much promise, so much personality. But the minute one player kneels during the anthem, I'm out. Surely Mark Cuban, I think he says, surely Mark Cuban, he continues to say some words about what Mark Cuban would do. Mark Cuban turns around and says, bye, okay, to the guy. He just says bye, meaning don't come. Now, this gets 100,000 likes and a bunch of retweets, okay? Then right afterwards, Ted Cruz says, really? NBA is telling everyone who stands for the flag, who honors our cops and our veterans to piss off? In Texas, no less. Good luck with that. Mark Cuban comes back and says, have some balls for once, Ted Cruz. Speak to me. It's my tweet. Ted Cruz comes back and says, speaking of balls, tell us what you think about China. I'll wait. This is all happening today in the last 4 or 5 hours.
I did not know this.
So then it continues and says, I think I won't criticize, if you think I won't criticize China and what they do as concerns American citizens, watch his video, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, they go back and forth. And then he says, why is it, Ted Cruz, that you take such pride in standing up to and speaking truth to the Chinese, but you have no ability to stand up and speak the truth to President Trump? So the concern with Cuban as a candidate is his position to China, and obviously for obvious reasons, because...
Well, first of all, stop for a minute, because there is no kneeling for my flag. I stand for my flag.
Zero for you.
Zero tolerance.
You're a Mavs fan. If they start being okay with kneeling, what do you do?
I'm no longer a Mavs fan.
You're being serious about this?
I think that the missing link in America today is that patriotism is some kind of conditionality. There's no conditionality about being an American. You either are or you're not. You either stand for the flag or you don't. There are people who died for that flag. I don't think there's no wiggle room around it. I'm sorry. But you should be proud to be a patriot, and you should be proud of this flag. And you should be proud of making the next generation proud to also not kneel. If you don't like what's happening in this country, do something about it. But don't disparage those who've died for you, ever. And by the way, Ted Cruz, put a mask on.
And this is coming from somebody that actually is a fan of Mark Cuban. It's not like you're against Mark Cuban, but your position is strong with military, and I respect that a lot. Going to what Ted Cruz said about China and Mark Cuban China, why do you think so many people in America, business people, are so protective of China?
Business people are not protective of China.
You don't think so?
I think there's a movement against.
You think so?
Oh.
I can name many, many billionaires that
fine,
are...
whatever. Are there hedge fund guys who want to play the system? Yeah. There are a lot of big businesses who realize that China's been stringing them along for a generation, saying, we're going to open the country, we're going to give you an opportunity to have great operations.
Come on, Danielle.
They're lying to them. There was a great article recently, can't remember where I read it, but there was a great article recently where American companies have finally woken up to the fact that they're not going to make major inroads on the mainland.
Okay.
That there's not going to be the next generation of electronic payments. Alibaba's already there. It's finished. China invites in American companies after it's completely finished saturating its own market. It's an insult.
I agree.
A complete insult. And it's better known than it's ever been, because all of a sudden in boardrooms across America, CEOs, CFOs, boards are being said, a trade war is one thing. Killing Americans is another. Figure out a new supply chain, and figure it out now. This is not a trade war. This is not optionality anymore. Figure out a new supply chain.
You think the left and the right is all on the same page with that?
I don't think that Biden, I don't think that Karl Marx could pull back what we've learned about China. I think if there's one service that's been done, it is a greater recognition of the fact that it's not about soybeans and it's not about corn, it's about 5G. And other countries are figuring this out. Look at what China's trying to do to Australia. Look at what China's trying to do to countries that have benefited from Chinese policies for years and years. For these countries to stand up to China and say, had you released the data on the pandemic, maybe we, Australia, would not have shut down. And we wouldn't be going into the first recession in 40 years. But Australia led the independent inquiry at the World Health Organization to look into the origin of the virus and was backed by 116 countries. 116 countries. And Australia benefits arguably more than any other country in the world with their natural resources exports. And they still stood up to China. I think that there will be a change, and we don't need the change in our farmland and lies from China about how much they can or will buy. I'm happy that they're buying American soybeans. That's fantastic. But don't come into my 5G network. And other countries are figuring it out. And it can't just be one country, because China's artificial intelligence, their robotics, their 5G. These are the things that Americans need to be doing. You're asking me about 20 to 25-year-olds? One up China at what they're doing and make sure that they can never have espionage become a part of taking us down again. And yes, a lot of countries and companies both are figuring it out.
I agree with worldwide. I agree with a lot of countries are turning their backs on China.
But companies in the United States are as well.
I don't think the NBA is, and I do not think Hollywood is. I think those two industries are so reliant on the need to have China play NBA games and China play Hollywood movies that they're so frightened of saying anything about. One GM from Houston says stand up to Hong Kong and what's going on. He gets hollered, and LeBron, you're out of line, and he wasn't prepared what he said. And nothing against China. They'll say anything against anybody, but they protect China. Anything against anybody except for China.
Well,
they'll call out the president. They'll call out the businesses. They'll call out any other place that they will not touch China. Have you been following this with the NBA and Hollywood?
I have tangentially. I don't follow Hollywood very closely because I don't listen to too many people in Hollywood very closely. So it's.
I think you would like Ricky Gervais. I don't know if you saw Ricky Gervais' speech or not.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he's one person you ought to follow.
Can you say barking like a seal? Yes, that was me. But to your point about the NBA, to your point about kowtowing to China, for any reason, if that is a requirement that we bend for commerce, then the future of this country, as I described the barbell of the paying people not to work and being filthy rich, and there being nothing in the middle, no middle class, no middle income earners, no entrepreneurs, no small business owners, if that's our future, then we bend forever. Or, will the real American raise their hand and not let this happen?